Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Sam DeCoste, and I am so excited to be back with you today, talking about the Champions League and the transfer market, because there are some great stories to talk about today. We have a full agenda, so let's get right into it. We're going to break down Manchester City's transfer window so far, and look at two signings that they made in the past week, and what's to come for the club. We'll also talk about the latest rumors in the transfer market, including Jadon Sancho's link to Manchester United, and a crazy story linking Cristiano Ronaldo to PSG. Stay tuned for that. And stick around to the end of the show when I talk about my top 5 best and worst kits for the 2021 season. And I'll tell you which kits you need to have in your wardrobe and which ones that you should stay away from. But we're going to get right into the Champions League, because that is the number one story in world football right now. The longest wait ever for the return of a Champions League season came to an end on Friday, with the remaining 4 round of 16 second legs to be played across Europe, with only 4 tickets to the quarterfinals for the taking. And there's no better place to start than Turin, because Juventus made a shock exit out of the Champions League on Friday night. With an aggregate scoreline of 2-2, Juve won 2-1 on the night, but the Lyon away goal was what separated Lyon from Juventus, and it's what sends Lyon into the quarterfinals and sends Juventus back home, which is very unexpected, and it was a huge upset. Now, we knew Lyon won the first leg back in February 1-0, and Juventus did have to come from behind to win and move on to Lisbon, but once Lyon scored in the early going in this game on the penalty, now you could argue whether or not the penalty was valid and VAR giving the penalty to Lyon, but by that point it was 2-0 on aggregate, and even though it was only a 1-0 deficit in the beginning of the game, Juventus would have to score at least 3 goals to move on, and that was assuming that Lyon didn't score again, which they didn't. But Juventus are not built to come from behind like that. They're not built to score 3+ goals in a game ever, especially not led by Cristiano Ronaldo, who, although he almost pulled it out all by himself, Ronaldo is 35 years old and he is well past his prime. And Paulo Dybala, who is actually the MVP of Serie A this season, had a pretty bad injury and he couldn't even play. He subbed on, he didn't even start the game, but when he came on, gave it a go, but he couldn't go on very long, so he subbed out very early. And Juventus never really controlled this game, because once Lyon scored the penalty, Juve had it all to do. They were chasing the game right from the beginning. Lyon had them right where they wanted for most of the time. Lyon played with 5 at the back, and it made it very difficult for Juve to find rhythm, to generate consistent goal-scoring opportunities. It's what made the possession so even. It's what made Juventus' possession so short and so futile. And Dybala really was a huge factor in this game, because if Dybala was healthy and he played all 90 minutes, maybe Juventus would have created more chances, maybe they would have scored more goals, maybe Juventus would be moving on to Lisbon, but they're not. You have to give credit to Dybala for trying to give it a go, but he just wasn't ready. Now, VAR. VAR obviously plays a heavy part in football nowadays, for better or for worse. In this game, you could argue that it evened itself out. You could argue if Lyon deserved the penalty. You could also argue if Juventus deserved their penalty in the first half. I would say neither was actually a penalty. But you could say that they evened each other out, so it didn't really matter in the end for either team, and it just evened it out. Nonetheless, for Juventus, VAR is not an excuse. You can't make Dybala an excuse, because this was the dream draw for Juventus. When the draw was made months ago, Lyon was one of the teams that everyone wanted, and Juventus got the perfect draw. Back then it was perfect, and it was even more optimal now, because Lyon, playing in France, haven't had a competitive game to play. They have not played the Ligue 1 season since it stopped back in March. They've only played one competitive game in the past 5 months. It was against PSG in a League Cup game, and PSG obviously is at the caliber of Juventus, but one competitive game in 5 months, because Juventus have been playing about a dozen Serie A games, including the cup games that they've had, playing Milan and Lazio and Atalanta, playing high-quality opponents twice, 3 times a week, and they were fresh, and Lyon were not fresh. And you could say whatever you want about Lyon, but not playing for so long, not playing competitive games, that was a huge disadvantage for Lyon, and it fed right into Juventus' hands. At least it should have when this game happened. But for Juventus, you have to talk about what a failure this is, because Juventus, this is probably the worst season they've had in 10 years. They've not had a worse season than this in so long. Probably the worst season they've had since this year was the last time they didn't win Serie A, which was 10 years ago. Although they won Serie A this year, they really had a terrible end of the season. Since the restart, Juventus have been just awful. And it's all been Cristiano Ronaldo, to be frank, because Ronaldo has been carrying this team. He's scored in almost every game since the restart, and he scored 2 goals in this game as well, and he really tried to put the team on his back. But Serie A is not enough. It hasn't been enough for about 5 years, ever since Juve made their first Champions League final under Massimiliano Allegri. The standards for this club really elevated, and they've really expected to be a Champions League winner for years. And bringing in Cristiano Ronaldo, that's what you expect when you bring in a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner, that you will be in the running for the Champions League. And it's one thing if you went out in the semifinals or lost in the final again, because that's a good season. It's a better season at least. But losing in the quarterfinals last year and losing in the round of 16 this year, it's unacceptable for a club with the pedigree of Juventus, because Juventus, they've never been at the stature of the big clubs in Europe. They've never been Real Madrid or Barcelona or even Bayern. They've always wanted it, but they've never been at that stature. And it's because they always come up short when it matters. They've always been the bridesmaid of world football. And as Maurizio Sarri said, they're cursed. Now you could argue if voodoo and curses like that exist in sport. That's not what I'm going to talk about. But Juventus have always come up short when it matters. In the championships, in the finals, they never do it. And in the past 5 years, they've been knocked out by the best teams in the world, including Barcelona in 2015, Bayern in 2016, Real Madrid in 2017 in the final, and then 2018 again. And last year, losing to Ajax. Okay, Ajax is not a great team, but last year they played some really great football, and they really shocked the world in that fairy tale run. But Lyon, come on. Lyon is not nearly at the pedigree of any of those clubs, and the excuses are up for this team. The excuses were up after blowing a lead against Milan. The excuses were up after stumbling to the finish line in Serie A. Juve only won 2 out of 8 going into the Friday night game against Lyon. They've won 2 out of 8 games going into the Champions League fixture. And they won the game against Lyon, but the aggregate was not in their favor. And this one result has some pretty significant ramifications for the future of this club, because Maurizio Sarri is gone. He's already been sacked. He wasn't even sacked after 24 hours when this game ended. In the morning, he was sacked right away. And you could argue if Sarri deserved to be sacked, because Sarri is a great coach. And in the past 3 years, he's been at Napoli, he spent 1 year at Chelsea, and he had a 1-year spell at Juventus. And he won the Europa League with Chelsea, and he made Napoli a very competitive team and almost closed the gap completely with Juventus and almost got Napoli to be a Serie A champion, if not for a miraculously great season from Juventus that year. But Sarri, what made this experiment fail, what made Sarri ball fail in Turin, is that Sarri's philosophy and his footballing identity is a complete 180 from the style of Juventus. Juventus defend. That is their identity. They just put numbers behind the ball, they defend with their lives, and they get you on the counterattack. That's what made Juve so good back in the day. Even 3 years ago when they made it to the final, it was because of the BBC defending and Buffon making great saves and being the best goalkeeper in the world. And now you're asking this team to completely shift their identity to a team like Barcelona or Real Madrid that takes the game to you, that runs the game on offense, and that's not in this club's DNA. And it could have been if they were really serious about shifting this club's identity and their football philosophy. They could have just been a little more patient, because maybe Sarri was the guy to do that for them. But Sarri's gone already. And when I was getting ready for this show, I was going to talk to you guys about who would be the potential successor to Maurizio Sarri. And I would have said, well, Maurizio Pochettino is on the market. He's still unattached and honestly could be a perfect fit. If Juventus still want to go with the offensive, good on the eye football, then Maurizio Pochettino would be a fantastic fit, especially with how great he did with Spurs, getting them into the Champions League final last season and getting them so close into one of the top clubs in the Premier League for a number of consecutive years. But Juventus have already made a decision. They've already hired a new coach, and it's very outside the box. It's bold, and it's a huge risk. They've hired former player Andrea Pirlo as their new manager. Andrea Pirlo is known as one of the most talented, most decorated midfielders in history. The Italian international World Cup winner, Champions League winner, played with Milan for a number of years. That's where he was at his peak. And he finished his career, his competitive European career at least, at Juventus from 2011 to 2015, and even made it to a Champions League final with them. But as decorated as Andrea Pirlo is, and as fun as this sounds on paper, because it does sound fun, it is a huge, huge gamble for Juventus, because Pirlo has no managerial experience at all. It's become a trend in world football to hire these legendary midfielders and club legends to take charge of these great clubs. You just look at Real Madrid, Zinedine Zidane, and look at Chelsea, Frank Lampard, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Manchester United. So this isn't the first time that a midfielder or a club legend, a player, taking charge of a club in need of a new manager. But what separates Andrea Pirlo from Lampard, from Zidane, and from Solskjaer, and from Arteta and Arsenal, what separates them is that they had experience before getting their role. Zidane didn't just have no coaching experience when he was thrown into the fire at Real Madrid. He had coaching experience with the under-23s. He was coaching with Real Madrid, with the club, for a number of years, getting that experience in. Same with Arteta. He worked for Pep Guardiola. What better way of learning how to be a great coach than working under Pep for a number of years at Manchester City? Talk about Frank Lampard. Before Chelsea hired him, even he had a year of experience coaching Derby County and nearly got them into the Premier League. That's a great resume. Those are some great experiences for managers who you want to give a chance to. But Andrea Pirlo has none of that. He's been the under-23 coach for Juventus for a month. Just 1 month, the team that plays in Serie C. Andrea Pirlo has no experience. This makes absolutely no sense. I think Juventus are trying a little too hard to be like Real Madrid if they're trying to hire one of the best midfielders in their club history, because this could either really succeed and Juventus win 4 of 6 Champions League titles like Real Madrid have, or they implode and Andrea Pirlo is gone in a few months. And that sounds harsh to say, and it would be a very sad sight to watch Andrea Pirlo be sacked as manager, knowing how decorated of a player that he is. But Andrea Pirlo is a gamble. It's a huge gamble. It's a big experiment. And also, what's his football philosophy? How does he play? Is he going to revert Juventus back to the defensive style that won them all those Serie A titles and got them into 2 Champions League finals? Is he going to play the style that Massimiliano Allegri played when he was at Juventus? What's he going to do here? There's no telling what Andrea Pirlo's football philosophy is. We don't know if it's going to be like Sarri, if he's going to press the restart button on this team. What's his transfer policy going to be? But honestly, for Juventus, what was the rush in signing Andrea Pirlo? It's not like any club was vying for his signature and was desperate to sign Andrea Pirlo. There were no sweepstakes for this man. And they officially announced Andrea Pirlo as manager not even 24 hours from when the game kicked off. 24 hours after Juve kicked the game off, Andrea Pirlo was already the manager for 2 hours. How is that? Why couldn't Juventus evaluate their options a little better and just play the field a little better than that? Because you have Pochettino out there who was the favorite, at least was the favorite for a few hours when this job was open, or even Simone Inzaghi. Anybody. Managers are not hired so whimsically and so impulsively, and it's not a great look for Juventus. It looks rushed, it looks impulsive, because Andrea Pirlo was handpicked by the club president, Andrea Agnelli, and you have to wonder why, because Andrea Pirlo is not Zidane. He's not Sir Alex Ferguson. He's Andrea Pirlo. He is a great player who has never coached in his life, apart from 1 month with the Juventus under-23 team. This is quite a story, and I didn't even mention, Andrea Pirlo is younger than Gianluigi Buffon. His oldest player on Juventus, his former teammate with Italy and Juventus, is older than Pirlo. That is the most unbelievable stat that I've seen. That Andrea Pirlo, the 41-year-old new Juventus manager, is not even the oldest player on the club, because Buffon is still going strong. But this is an unbelievable story. Juventus going out to Lyon is one thing, but I didn't expect to be talking to you about Juventus's manager decision this quickly, but it will not be the last time that we talk about Andrea Pirlo as Juventus manager, I can promise you that. Now we're going to move on to Real Madrid versus Manchester City, which was the big ticket round of 16 match that was still undecided going into the next round of games. The first leg back in February finished 2-1, and the second leg on Friday finished 2-1, a copy and paste pretty much. Manchester City advanced 4-2 on aggregate, and you have to say this was quite a strange game because Manchester City were not at their best, but Real Madrid, who played pretty well in certain spells of this game, made some costly mistakes, specifically from one man in particular, and that was what unraveled Real Madrid's game, and that is what ended their season so early. Now, in the beginning of the game, Manchester City high-pressed, and they were putting the pressure on Real Madrid, and Real Madrid did not know how to cope with the high press, and it forced a lot of uncharacteristic turnovers and mistakes from some very experienced players, like Casemiro and Courtois in goal. But the scapegoat for this loss, undoubtedly, is one man, and that's Raphael Varane. Varane made two costly mistakes, which gave both goals away for Manchester City in the end. And it was Varane just getting caught in possession or trying to pass the ball back, play out of the back, and it just failed miserably. And he just didn't know what he was doing. He looked like a deer in headlights. And it's shocking because Raphael Varane is one of the best defenders in the world. He's a world-class player with loads of experience on his resume. We're talking about a 27-year-old who's won the Champions League, who's won the World Cup, who has all this experience with France and with Real Madrid, playing with the best defender in the world in Sergio Ramos, and he had the worst game of his career on Friday night. In Madrid's biggest game of the season, and with their season on the line, Raphael Varane looked like a different man. It looked like somebody else was wearing his jersey number because that was not the Raphael Varane that the world knows. You could attribute that to Sergio Ramos because he was suspended. He did not play in this game because of the red card in the first leg back in February. Maybe Sergio Ramos is that important to this club because without him, Raphael Varane and Casemiro and Courtois were not the same. They didn't know what they were doing. They were flustered. They made uncharacteristic mistakes and they were forced into so many turnovers. It was a huge problem for Raphael Varane and for Real Madrid. So Sergio Ramos is much more important to this club than we imagine because he is their captain, he is their stalwart, but he wasn't there, and then the team imploded. It shows how important Sergio Ramos really is to this club because he's their penalty taker, he's one of their top goal scorers, and he's their leader. He is their leader. It's really ashamed to see Rafael Varane unravel like that in the Champions League with their season on the line. But for Real Madrid, it is a failure and it is a disappointment to be exiting the Champions League at the round of 16. But it's not been a terrible season for them. They did win La Liga for the first time in 3 seasons. Real Madrid, as great as they are in the Champions League, they have not won La Liga very often. So it's a great cap and it's a great achievement for them, especially for what the season began. Because back in the preseason, when Real Madrid were on tour in America, Real Madrid lost a friendly to Atletico, their city rivals. They lost 7-3 in a friendly in New Jersey. Zidane admitted that loss has stayed with him and the team all year long. They have not forgotten about that. And it's hard to forget about a 7-3 loss when you give up 7 goals in any game. But that almost set the tone for the season. And you would have thought that was going to be how the season played out all year. Real Madrid being terrible at the back and just imploding like they did last year in their first season without Cristiano Ronaldo. But in the end, they won La Liga, exiting the round of 16. Not great, but it's a better season than last year, that's for sure. But it's even more impressive that they did it without Eden Hazard. For most of the season, Eden Hazard was a non-factor because his season was pretty much an asterisk because he didn't play because he's had so many injuries and he's been out for so long. Even though Eden Hazard started this game against Manchester City, you have to question Zidane. Why did he take Hazard out with 10 minutes left in the biggest game of the season, where if you don't score, then you're out. You're going out. The season is over if you don't score. And Hazard just left the game for Luka Jovic, who is going to be out the door himself. It looks like he's on the move to Monaco this summer. You don't pay 100 million euros for a talented player like Eden Hazard, for your number 7, for the man who's supposed to fill the shoes of Cristiano Ronaldo, and then sub him out in the biggest game of the season when you're losing. And that was it for them. I have to say, Zidane has done a lot right in his managerial career, and he's won so many trophies. He's highly decorated, but that's a decision that I do not understand at all, and I don't think I will. But that is the season for Real Madrid. Manchester City move on. They will play Lyon in the quarterfinals next week. Now let's move on to Barcelona versus Napoli, because this game finished 1-1 back in February, and Barcelona have had a very rough spell at the end of La Liga, losing their lead over Real Madrid in La Liga, losing the La Liga title, and really unraveling before our eyes. And this game against Napoli was not going to be easy for them, but they made it look very easy in the end. They win the game 3-1 in the end. They prevail 4-2 on aggregate. Now, the first half, Barcelona were at the top of their game. They were creating chances left, right, and center. Messi looked fantastic. He scored a goal. He scored a second goal, which was very questionably written off after a VAR review. I don't think it hit his hand, but VAR, what can you do? That's a discussion for another day. But at the end of the first half, when Napoli got the penalty and made it 3-1, they only needed 2 more goals, and they would knock out Barcelona and advance to the quarterfinals. And I had to admit that Napoli really made it uncomfortable for Barcelona for the end of the first half and the early second half. Napoli were creating loads of chances, and they were getting in front of goal, and they were challenging Barcelona and pressuring them. And considering Barcelona's recent history in the knockout stage of the Champions League, you had to say that Barcelona were not safe by any means, because they've underestimated Roma, they've underestimated Liverpool without Mohamed Salah, don't forget, even last year. And for a team like Barcelona, they were up 3 goals. That is a very familiar territory that they've been in the past few years in this stage, and they've let it unravel before them before. And it wouldn't have been surprising to see it again, even though Napoli is not Liverpool or Roma even per se. Napoli is an expansive football team with a lot of great young talented attackers, and it could have been a lot scarier, especially when that goal came at the 80th minute from Milik, I believe, on the header. It was offside, but that almost made it very scary for Barcelona fans when their heart rate increased. It almost seemed like deja vu was going to happen again, that Barcelona were going to blow another 3-goal lead. But in the end, Napoli grew tired, Barcelona defended very well, and they took control of the game, and they locked it down in the end, and Barcelona advanced, and they will play Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals on Friday. And the last round of 16 tie was Bayern versus Chelsea. We don't really need to talk about this because this game was pretty much wrapped up before kickoff, and it was wrapped up in pretty much 10 minutes. The game ended 4-1 on the night. On aggregate, it was 7-1. That's a pretty notable company that Chelsea have put themselves in, and it goes without saying what the 7-1 means and where Chelsea are and what they belong with now. The Chelsea season ends with a thud, with a devastating, humiliating defeat to Bayern. It's one thing going out to Bayern, but losing that many goals to Bayern, what can you say? It's in the territory of Arsenal losing 10-2 2 straight seasons to Bayern. But 2 goals from Lewandowski, who keeps scoring and just increases his lead for the Golden Boot. Perisic got a goal, as did Tolisso. This was pretty expected. We knew that Bayern was going to run Chelsea over in this game, especially with Chelsea missing some of their key players. Pulisic was injured. He didn't play. Neither did Rudiger or Alonso. So it was always going to be difficult for Chelsea. You would have liked to see them put up more of a fight, but we knew that Chelsea was out before the game even started. And Bayern advanced very comfortably. They face Barcelona very soon in the quarterfinals. And so, to put a cap on that, we have Manchester City, Lyon, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich join Atletico Madrid, RB Leipzig, Atalanta, and PSG in the quarterfinals of this season's UEFA Champions League. The quarterfinals are all going to be played in Portugal this year in a bubble format, and they will begin on Wednesday when Atalanta takes on PSG, which should be very interesting, and we'll talk about that on the next show. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Manchester City, talk about the latest transfer rumors and their latest signings. Don't go anywhere.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the show. We just finished our recap of the Champions League round of 16 ties. Now we're going to pivot over to the transfer market and talk about Manchester City's recent activity, because they've been busy and they plan to be very busy in the coming weeks of the transfer window, because they've already made 2 signings. And we're going to talk about them right now and see where they fit in with the City team. First, Ferran Torres is the first signing of the summer for Manchester City. The move is worth £23 million plus £12 million in additional payments. And Torres is a very young prospect, very promising player. 97 caps for Valencia in Spain. 9 goals in 3 seasons in La Liga. Last season he scored 6 goals and notched 8 assists. And he's very talented and versatile. He can play wide. He can play like a number 10 role. He can play midfield, play winger, played wide. That's one of Torres' most admirable traits and attributes, especially for Pep Guardiola. He loves a man who can play in a variety of positions and a versatile talent. Torres is only 20 years old. He's a very raw talent. He's very far from the developed, finished product. But one of the biggest reasons that Torres signed was to be a more developed, more finished product. And he wants to be coached by Pep Guardiola, who really knows how to take a young, talented player to the next level and mold a raw talent into a finished, developed finisher. It's what he did with Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva flourished with Pep Guardiola, Ferran Torres could be the next in line to learn from the best coach on the planet right now. And Torres said he wants to take his talent to the next level. He wanted to play in the Premier League. He wanted to learn from one of the best of the best. He also wants to play with some of the best midfielders around because Manchester City's midfield is quite stacked, as we know. And they're looking to maybe replace David Silva with Ferran Torres. Now, is Ferran Torres ready to replace David Silva now? No, far from it. But that is the player comparison. If you were to say, who is Ferran Torres? What is his player comparison? It would be David Silva because they have so much in common. They're versatile. They're talented. They can play wide. They can play midfield. They can play false nine. Ferran Torres' ceiling is definitely David Silva, and he has a chance to learn from the best of the best in the midfield, especially playing with Kevin De Bruyne, playing with Bernardo Silva. It's going to be exciting to see how Torres develops. Now, will he get into the team right away? Probably not, because Manchester City had a very talented young group of midfielders and established midfielders, and so Torres will have to earn his place. He'll play a lot of FA Cup games, some League Cup games, maybe games against the Norwiches and Aston Villas. He'll start and get a chance to show why he should be a part of the first team going forward. But in the end, Manchester City get a great bargain for a very young, coveted player, because according to Torres and Valencia got a lot of calls from big clubs in Europe, so Torres' signature was very coveted across Europe. And Manchester City, in the end, get him for only $23 million, which is a great price line for Manchester City. It's team-friendly, it's convenient, and it's a low price to pay for a very young player, which is very strange considering how the market has trended recently. But with COVID-19, it probably benefited Manchester City and Valencia that the price line was lowered a little bit, and in the end, it helps Valencia make a profit and move forward with their season for next year. Now, let's move on to Manchester City's second signing, which is Nathan Ake. He signed with Manchester City for 41 million euros. He's a consistently solid Premier League defender. He's played for Bournemouth for a number of years, and he's been a key part of their team and a key part of them staying in the Premier League for so many years before they got relegated this year, unfortunately. He was originally a Chelsea product. He was loaned to Bournemouth a couple seasons ago, but Chelsea were not interested in re-signing him or matching City's offer to buy him permanently. And Nathan Ake is only 25 years old, so he's a young defender. He's experienced with the Premier League, so he's played in the league before already. He's very experienced. He's played for a very defensive team like Bournemouth, and he's also very excited to play from the back and use his talents on the ball, because as a defender, he's solid, he's consistent, but like Ferran Torres, Ake wants to take his game to the next level. So that's defensive-wise. It's also going forward, because Manchester City are one of the most innovative attacking teams in world football. And for Nathan Ake, he wants to be able to learn how to play out of the back and play well, playing next to Laporte and Mendy, to be able to be a complete defender, because nowadays being a complete defender is more than just standing and blocking shots and making good tackles. It's also about passing sequences and playing out of the back and looping long balls over the top. That's why Virgil van Dijk and Sergio Ramos are revered as some of the best defenders in the world, because of their ability to play the ball forward and not just be able to stand and block shots and defend well. Because Nathan Ake is solid, but he's not at the level of Van Dijk or even Laporte at Manchester City. But Manchester City are getting an upgrade, because center back has been a very weak spot for this team, and they've tried for a lot of different center backs over the years to look for their stalwart, their solid star defender. They have not been able to find one for the last few years, and they've tried. They've had some pretty epic failures at the position, though. Look at Otamendi, who was bought back in 2015 for a big price from Valencia, and he flopped. He was not nearly the defender that he was at Valencia. Took a nosedive in his career, and he's not been the same player. And he's really been poor for Manchester City, you could say, over the course of his career. John Stones is another. John Stones has been an epic failure for Manchester City. Big price line, signed from Everton, and he's just never reached his ceiling, and he's always got a mistake in him. He's turnover costly. He makes mistakes. He doesn't defend well. He doesn't mark very well. And he's lost his spot with England. He's lost his spot at City. I mean, for pretty much half to almost all of the season, Fernandinho was asked to play center back, even though he's a midfielder. He plays the Busquets role, the defensive midfielder, the one that just sits back in front of the back two. And he's been asked to play center back for most of the season, and that's not his natural position. And you're asking Fernandinho, who doesn't naturally play center back, to play a position that Otamendi and Stones aren't good enough to play, even though that's the position that they play. So that's very unfortunate for Manchester City. And you could also say that Ake is City's attempt to replace Vincent Kompany, because Kompany left the club after last season, became a player coach in Belgium, and he has not been replaced by Manchester City yet. Manchester City have had trouble replacing Kompany because obviously you could see Laporte has not had a solid partner at the back for most of the season, and they're hoping that Ake will be that. Now, will he be? I don't know. It's hard to say. He is a young player, and Pep Guardiola will be able to coach him up and teach him the philosophy of tiki-taka and teach him how to play Manchester City and play well, play out of the back, make him a better defender. But there's no telling. We don't know yet. Although for 41 million euros, that's a decent price line. Although it is odd to see Manchester City so eager to spend right after UEFA lifted their Champions League ban, because they must not have a lot of money going for them, but they are very eager to take out the checkbook and to spend and spend and spend right now. So they have Nathan Ake in the building now to pair with Laporte. And that could be a good partnership, although City don't seem content with just Ake in the center back as a new signing. They did want Koulibaly from Napoli, and he was Pep Guardiola's most desired target and most desired transfer to bring into Manchester City this summer. And Koulibaly, before the signing of Ake, seemed very unrealistic because Napoli is not going to give up Koulibaly on the cheap. Koulibaly is one of the best center backs on the planet. And for Manchester City to pull him out of Napoli, they're going to have to offer the club, I should say, 80, 90 million probably, to even get Napoli to listen to any offers. Not to mention Napoli has a very involved owner, and ownership will not let Koulibaly leave unless Napoli make a fortune from it. And even now that Ake has been signed, you're down 41 million euros, and unless you offload a bunch of players, Koulibaly is not coming to Manchester. I don't think it's going to happen. The rumors persist, Pep insists, and Koulibaly, you could even say maybe wants the move if he wants to leave Napoli. But it's not going to happen because Manchester City don't have the money. And if they try to spend the money, well, it's going to look bad for them, and UEFA are probably going to be right back on their butt about UEFA financial fair play, which is what was plaguing them last season and almost barred them from the Champions League for the next 2 years. So Koulibaly is probably not coming to Manchester. It's highly doubtful. Although, apart from center back, Manchester City don't seem to be done, and they don't seem to be content with their activity in the transfer market. And they want to spend money, and they want to buy at least 3 or 4 more players, according to multiple reports in England. And it could be good for them. It could be good to give this squad a little more youth and some more juice, because Manchester City is a very old squad. And they have a lot of veteran players who are in the twilight of their careers. And they've already had a few notable players who are some of the club greats and some of the Premier League greats already take off. We talked about Vincent Kompany. He's already out of the door. He won't be coming back. And he was probably Mr. Manchester City for so long in his career, and he's gone now. You also have David Silva, who as soon as Manchester City lose, will be out the door as well. So David Silva, his Manchester City career is coming to an end very quickly as well. And also you have Sergio Aguero, who has long been their guy, their number one goal scorer. Every time that Manchester City needed a moment of brilliance, it's always been Aguero who's come up. Think about the QPR goal when they won their first ever Premier League title. Think about all the goals that he's scored and just the moments that he's produced. Sergio Reggione is also 33 plus, and he's not going to be around much longer. He might have one more good season in him, to be honest. And after that, he's probably not going to be any good for Manchester City anymore. And they can't sell him. They can't get any more production out of him after maybe at least a season. Could be even shorter than that he's even any good anymore. So he's going to leave for free as well. So it's going to be very challenging for Manchester City. They need to find a new goal scorer because Gabriel Jesus, who signed back in 2017 by Pep Guardiola, Jesus was supposed to be the replacement for Aguero, and that's not worked out at all. Gabriel Jesus has not been available. He's been getting hurt, and he's not a very good finisher either for Manchester City or Brazil. Jesus has been a bit of a flop, you could say. So Manchester City would be wise to look for a forward to replace Sergio Aguero and to give a little more competition to Jesus, because it could be beneficial for Manchester City to get more attacking depth. Because behind Aguero and Jesus, they don't really have a true striker in the building. And that's probably their most defined weakness right now. Center back was their weakness. They've addressed it. Whether it's a good replacement or not, you could argue, but they need a striker now. They need some strikers to rejuvenate and make the squad a little more younger and give that a little more energy. Because Manchester City are entering a new era. A lot of their greatest players in club history are gone, or they're going to be leaving very soon. Even Ronaldo, who's been at the club for a number of years, is 34, and he's going to be out of the club very soon as well. David Silva gone, company gone, Ronaldo leaving soon, Aguero leaving soon. This club needs to add around the talent they already have. They have a great goalkeeper. They have a great midfield. They have some great wingers. Raheem Sterling and Bernardo Silva are great pieces to build around, as is Kevin De Bruyne, who might be, or arguably is, the best midfielder on the planet right now. Manchester City just need a little more because they had a very, very bad drop-off this year. The drop-off they've had from last year to this year is night and day. And the gap between Liverpool and them was about, I think it was 18 points between Manchester City and Liverpool. So Manchester City have some work to do because the squad the way it is now, even with Torres and Ake, is probably not good enough to overleap Liverpool right now. Because Liverpool are just so much better. Their team is better. Their defense is better. Their forward line is better. And Manchester City have some great players that are better than most of the players on Liverpool, but they need to rebuild a little bit. And this could be a defining offseason, a defining transfer window for Manchester City if Pep decides to dish the cash a little bit and take out the checkbook. Because according to reports, it sounds like that is exactly what he wants to do. And also, this is still something to consider. It's still a possibility that Pep Guardiola leaves. That's still up in the air. Now, Manchester City's season is still going on right now. They have a quarterfinal against Lyon, I believe, on Saturday. And beyond that, their season could end it could end in the quarterfinal, the semifinal, or the final. So they have 3 games at the most left in the season. And beyond that, Pep Guardiola has not committed to staying at Manchester City for the next year or for the long-term future. Because let's not forget, Pep Guardiola does not make a habit of staying in one place for very long. He left Barcelona after a few years. He was in Bayern for only 3 years. And this is already his 4th season. He's already been in Manchester for 4 years. How much longer will he stick around until he decides that he wants to try a new experiment? He's already taken down Spain, Germany, and England. He's already dominated with England. And if he wins the Champions League this year, well, then why would he stay any longer? Because Manchester City have never won the Champions League. They've been seeking it for so many years. And if they finally get over the line, then Pep Guardiola would have really done everything that he could at Manchester, and it would be time to move on to a new project. You could say maybe he'll go to Italy or France or back to Spain. Who knows what he would do. But Pep Guardiola is not a guarantee to stay next season or beyond that, or the next season. So let's see what happens with Manchester City, because it's clear that they want to be very active in the transfer window and they're not done yet, and that Pep Guardiola may not stay much longer in Manchester. That is it for the Manchester City segment on their transfer window. Coming up after the break, we're going to open it up to the latest transfer rumors across Europe. Don't go anywhere.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. We just finished our segment on Manchester City's transfer window, and now we're going to talk about the latest transfer rumors circling around Europe, because there are a few transfer deals that are in the works, that the wheels are in motion, and a deal could be made in the next few days. There are also some very strange rumors that we're going to break down and see if there's any validity to that. Now we're going to start with the ultimate transfer rumor: Cristiano Ronaldo linked with a move to PSG. You heard that right. Cristiano Ronaldo would link with a move to Paris. Now, why would that be? Now, according to reports, Cristiano wanted a move to Paris before COVID-19 struck, and he might have made it a bit of a big deal before the pandemic began, but obviously because of COVID-19, striking a deal and leaving the club is a much more difficult task to execute for Ronaldo. But according to reports, Ronaldo has long dreamed of forming a fearsome trident with Neymar and Mbappe. And you have to admit, on paper, a front three of Neymar, Ronaldo, and Mbappe, that would absolutely tear world football apart. And that would be a lot of fun to watch. And that's something that you definitely should do on FIFA, because that would be loads of fun to do. Especially about 2 years ago, because Ronaldo is not the same players that he was even just a few years ago. Another key part of this is that Ronaldo wanted to trade Turin for Paris, that he was not thrilled about living in Turin anymore. He felt like he was living behind the mountains, that everything was on the other side, and that he was living in the shadows of Italy. And let's be honest, I think anybody would trade Turin for Paris. I certainly would. I would rather live in Paris than living in Turin. But that is where the validity of this rumor really ends, because Ronaldo, even if COVID-19 didn't happen, I don't think Ronaldo had any chance of going to PSG. Because when Ronaldo was bought by Juventus, Juventus spent upwards of 100 million euros to bring him in from Real Madrid. Because even though Real Madrid wanted to get rid of him, he was 33 years old, and Juventus bought him, he still cost 100 million in just the transfer fee alone. And Ronaldo makes a hefty amount of wages as well, and Juventus made the move happen. But PSG didn't really move. When the Ronaldo sweepstakes began, so to speak, PSG stood still. They didn't really make any moves or show any interest in bringing in Cristiano into Paris. And so, why would PSG step in now when Ronaldo is 2 years older, when he's as expensive as ever, Because don't forget, even though Juventus have had a very bad season, Ronaldo has had a very great season. He has scored over 35 goals this year. He nearly got Juventus over the line against Lyon last night with his efforts, with his 2 goals, with his 7 knockout stage goals in the Champions League for Juventus already in his 2 seasons at Juventus so far. Juventus are not going to let him go for 30 million. They're going to squeeze every euro out of PSG. I don't think Juventus would settle for anything less than the price they paid for Ronaldo for him to leave Juventus to go to Paris. So this rumor, while as enticing and exciting and as unorthodox as it is on paper, there's nothing to see here. Ronaldo was never going to go to PSG because as badly as he might have wanted to leave, I don't think it would have worked. Not to mention, PSG would not have the money to buy him from Juventus, and they wouldn't be able to afford it with the wages that Ronaldo was going to demand, because Ronaldo will not take a pay cut to play in Paris. He's not going to take a pay cut with PSG already paying very expensive wages to Neymar and Mbappe and Di Maria. That's a very top-heavy roster that they have in Paris, and Ronaldo would just not fit in the puzzle at all. Cristiano Ronaldo would not match with PSG at all, and this is where the rumor dies, because there is no hope, even now, of that ever happening. The club after Juventus or Real Madrid is really anybody's guess, but Ronaldo will probably see out his contract at Juventus, whether he wants to or not, and he might go to MLS, he might go to China, might go back to Portugal, or he might just retire after Juventus. We'll have to see. But Ronaldo is staying put in Turin, I can guarantee you that, at least for next season. That is it for that rumor. Let's move on to one of the more valid rumors and one of the more rumors that are in the motion right now. Let's talk about Jadon Sancho. Sancho has lit it up in world football for the past 2 seasons. This season alone, he scored 17 goals and notched 17 assists as well in just 32 games in the Bundesliga this year. He's been fantastic. He's just getting better every day, and he's made Dortmund very exciting to watch, and he could be one of the next greats in world football. Now, Manchester United have made Jadon Sancho their number 1 transfer target already, and they have been very quick to negotiate with Sancho, and they're about to negotiate with Dortmund as well to negotiate a transfer fee. Now, the deal is being finalized right now. Jadon Sancho and Man United have already agreed to personal terms, so Man United have agreed with the wages that they'll pay Sancho. Sancho wants United. Sancho is happy about it. He's excited about it. But what's left to be decided is the transfer fee, and the negotiations between Man United and Dortmund have really stalled lately because Dortmund do not want to let Sancho go for anything less than they believe he is worth. And they, rightly so, they see Sancho as one of the best players in the world, and they're not going to let him go lightly. They want to squeeze every penny they can get out of Man United. And Dortmund's asking price is 120 million. They want nothing less for one of the best young prospects in world football. Man United don't have the money right now. COVID-19 is part of it, and also Man United have spent a lot of money over the last few years, and it's going to be a little difficult for them to notch Jadon Sancho's signature if Dortmund has such a high asking price. And Man United have clamored for them to lower their price and have sympathy with Man United because of the pandemic and how difficult it's made for them to make negotiations and for them to really go for high budget transfers. But let's be honest, Dortmund is not going to have any sympathy for Man United or any other club that comes knocking for Jadon Sancho, because Dortmund is happy to keep Jadon Sancho. I don't think Borussia Dortmund is in a rush to get rid of him. So for Manchester United, for their perspective, they want to offer Dortmund 70 million as an upfront fee and then make up the rest in gradual payments of up to 50 million. So they would make up the 120 million price tag that Dortmund are asking for, but they would do it in increments. They would do a 70 million upfront and then additional payments over the course of next season, which would add up to 50 million when all the payments are completed. Now, that would be a very unique way of making a transfer. It would be different, and that's the thing that COVID-19 would do. But Dortmund are not going to accept that. I don't think Dortmund would accept anything less than 120 million. At least they would be stupid if they didn't, because Jadon Sancho is a very talented player. He's been a very key part of Dortmund. The Dortmund are not just going to let him go. If they don't believe the asking price, if they don't believe that Man United are going to offer what they're looking for, and that is not what they're looking for, I don't think Dortmund would be happy with getting that money in increments. You would want the money then and there. Because if Jadon Sancho is gone, you have to replace him, and you have to get some players to fill in for him, because Jadon Sancho is not a very replaceable player. He is far from indispensable. But Man United are still clamoring for him. They want him. He is their number one transfer target to add to the fold. Whether or not they really need him, I don't know, because like I talked about in the last show, Man United have one of the best attacking tridents of world football. You have a very young front three, very talented young three that scored more goals than any front three in the Premier League this year, with Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, and Mason Greenwood. They're all so young. They've all had great seasons this year, and Jadon Sancho would just he would start, but it would make all those players maybe depth players, and it would make Man United better, but it doesn't address the needs that Man United really have right now, and the most clamoring ones that they have to fill, at least you could say. So it really, personally, I don't think Jadon Sancho should be going to Man United, or Man United should be interested in Jadon Sancho right now, but that opinion is not really going to factor into this decision, because it definitely is going to happen, and it's very likely that Jadon Sancho will leave Dortmund to go to Man United this year or next. But Dortmund have really put the pressure on Man United, because Dortmund really want to set a deadline for this. Dortmund set a deadline for August 10th. By the time this podcast is listened to, the deadline will have passed, because Dortmund are getting ready for the Bundesliga season. While Man United are in the Europa League, the Bundesliga season is on the horizon, and Dortmund have already reported back for training camp. And Dortmund don't want a player around at training camp if they're not going to be there for the season. They want to only have their team there. So presumably they want a situation where if it's August 11th, they want to shut the door on Man United ever signing Jadon Sancho for this season, because it's not going to happen. They want to keep Jadon Sancho in their building when the season is so close. But Man United certainly are not the type of club that will cater to another club's demands. If they want him, they'll take their time. And they are a club who likes to take their time with transfers. They're not going to rush into it just because Dortmund wants them to. But for Dortmund's perspective, what they've been saying is that if a deal is not done by August 10th, the door is shut and Sancho will stay. Now, that probably is not the last chapter to this tale, but we'll have to see what develops in the coming weeks with this, because this is a story that will not end on August 10th. I can pretty much guarantee you it will linger for weeks, potentially. And we'll have to see how things develop with Jadon Sancho and Manchester United. Now, moving on to another rumor, which is very likely to happen this summer. It's Thiago to Liverpool. Thiago, the talented Bayern midfielder, the 29-year-old Spanish international, he's keen on a move to Liverpool to play for Jurgen Klopp and to play for the Premier League champions. Now, Liverpool want the move. Klopp and Thiago and the club all want it. And even Bayern's coach, Hansi Flick, the interim manager, has admitted and has given the green light to Thiago to make this move. He said that Thiago's taken over Spain. He's taken over Germany. He respects his decision to want to take over England now, and he wants to play in the Premier League. So Thiago has the green light from the club. He has the green light from the manager. But Liverpool don't have the money right now. Now, it's not just COVID-19. Liverpool do have a lot of high-wage players on the books right now. And so for Liverpool to afford this move, they have to offload a lot of players to make room for the wages and for the transfer fee. Now, the transfer fee wouldn't be that expensive. Bayern are really only looking for $30 million for Thiago, and that would be enough to sell him. And they also have to make room for wages. So Liverpool probably have to offload a few players to make this move happen. They've already had a few players leave the club this summer, like Daniel Sturridge and Adam Lallana. And Dejan Lovren is going to be out the door, but they're probably going to have to sell some players. Now, there are some players that have not really panned out that they might want to sell, like Naby Keita, who was supposed to be what Thiago would be for Liverpool, which is a high-quality midfielder who can create chances and goal-scoring opportunities and really drive the engine for Liverpool's midfield. Keita's not done that. Maybe they could sell him, and that would make up most of the money that they would want to spend on Thiago. But Liverpool want Thiago. Thiago wants Liverpool, but the money isn't there right now, and Liverpool need to make some moves to free up the room. And it would be a very cheap transfer price, as I said earlier. Only $30 million. For a player like Thiago at 29 years old, not a bad deal. That would be a great bargain if Liverpool are able to pull this off. And I had to say, if Liverpool do get Thiago, which looks very likely, that midfield would really take a step up. Because you could say that Liverpool, as great as they've been, and as good of a team as they have, they really have one very big weakness, which has not been addressed for a number of years, and it's that they don't have that creative number 6 or number 8 type player. They don't have a creative midfielder who can be the player that creates the chances in the midfield, who takes that goal-scoring burden off the front three, who can go forward, who can make chances. Because as talented and as great as the seasons have been for Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, Milner and Wijnaldum, Thiago is better than all of them, at least in goal scoring and creating chances. Thiago would elevate the play of Liverpool's midfield tenfold. He would give Liverpool a dimension that they don't have, that they haven't had for years. And that's why Liverpool want him so much. And that's why Thiago wants it. It's why Klopp wants it. If Liverpool get this signature, Liverpool are going to be even better than they were last year. And that right now seems unimaginable, to fathom an even better Liverpool than last year. But it's definitely likely. And can you imagine a midfield of Fabinho holding the middle along with Thiago and Henderson or Milner? That's a good midfield. It's a very talented starting 11 already with the team that they have. Thiago takes that team to the next level undoubtedly. And it would be fun to see Thiago in the Liverpool red. Moving on to some more transfer rumors, talking about Edinson Cavani, the PSG striker for a number of years. He is on the way out. PSG have made it clear that they will not re-sign him. He will leave the club, and it looks like Benfica are the favorites right now to notch Edinson Cavani's signature. Right now, Cavani negotiated with Benfica. They have agreed to wages annually of £2.5 million. Cavani has been on the way out of PSG. We have heard rumors of a Leeds United signature with Edinson Cavani, although Leeds United are making their top flight return for the first time in about 17 years. So it's unlikely to see a club like that notch Cavani's signature. Benfica is much more likely. Playing in Lisbon would be great for Cavani. They're going to pay him a lot of money, while Leeds might not be able to pay the wages that he wants. So this move looks likely, but the wheels are still in motion, and we'll have to see how this one develops in the next few days. Arsenal have been making some negotiations with some players. They've made some offers to some other Premier League players. They've offered a 3-year contract to Willian, the Brazilian winger at Chelsea. They want him, and they've offered him a 3-year deal to switch teams in the city of London. And Willian added in the fold with Lacazette and Pepe and Aubameyang, that would make a great attack. And Arsenal already have a great attack. And you have to wonder if Willian really is necessary, if that should be the target that Arsenal are seeking. But nonetheless, Arsenal do have their eyes on Willian. They also have their eyes on Philippe Coutinho, the very talented Brazilian attacker who's currently a property of Barcelona, who's out on loan at Bayern Munich. But it's clear that Philippe Coutinho is not a wanted man in Barcelona anymore. And he has experience playing in the Premier League very well. He was fantastic at Liverpool, which engineered that huge €120 million move to Barcelona in the first place. And Coutinho has admitted that if he does leave Barcelona or Bayern, that he would be very keen on a Premier League return. And a Premier League return would make a lot of sense for Coutinho. And Arsenal seem very keen on making Coutinho their latest signing. And it looks like it's going to happen on a loan move. Arsenal wouldn't be able to match anywhere near the fee that Barcelona paid for Coutinho when he was bought back in 2018 But Coutinho was wanted a return to the Premier League ever since he left, and Liverpool would not be a very realistic return, but it would be a very good fit for a player like Coutinho to go to Arsenal and arguably really fill the role that Mesut Ozil has not. Mesut Ozil has been taking up a lot of Arsenal's wages over the past few years, and he's not been putting in enough effort. He's not been there. He's been very invisible in many games this season and in the past few years. So for Mesut Ozil, Coutinho would be a great replacement for him. And Coutinho definitely looks like it's going to be a loan move to Arsenal, and that will develop in the next few days as well. Moving on to Chelsea. Chelsea have made left back their top priority in the summer transfer window. They were pursuing Ben Chilwell from Leicester, although negotiations have really hit the rocks, so it looks like Chilwell will remain in Leicester, or at least not go to London to play for Chelsea. Now Chelsea's number one target is Sergio Reggione, the left back from Real Madrid, the young Spanish international. He's back up to Marcelo. He has experience starting in the Champions League. He played and he was a favorite of Real Madrid in the season when Zidane was not manager, so he started in the series against Ajax back in 2019. He was a regular starter and he even superseded Marcelo for most of that season. So Chelsea have made him their number one priority, and talks are ongoing and apparently are at a very advanced stage for Reguilon and Chelsea. Other rumors, which are very early but definitely could be interesting to see, Bournemouth have seen Eddie Howe, their great manager, depart the club after the club was relegated from the Premier League. They're looking to replace Eddie Howe with John Terry, the former Chelsea legend and former player coach for Aston Villa. Bournemouth are looking to get the signature of John Terry, and that would be fun to see if John Terry can manage a team and get them back into the Premier League for a club like Bournemouth. Also in Madrid, James Rodriguez, the very talented Colombian midfielder and one of the best players in the 2014 World Cup, is looking to make a move to Atletico Madrid. So basically to stay in Madrid and switch jersey colors and play for his city rivals. That would be a very interesting move, and that would make Atletico Madrid very much a better team, and that would make them very exciting already with Alvaro Morata and João Felix. That would be a very fun team to watch if James gets his move. And you have to admit, James has been wasting away at the bench for all these years. James has always been a very talented player, and you could argue that he's never really had the circumstances there for him ever since Zidane neglected him when Zidane took over at Real Madrid. He's been wasting away on the bench for a number of years, and a move to Atletico could really resurrect his career, which is really dying by the day. All right, those are all the rumors that we have to discuss right now. The transfer window will be open until October, and it will be open until October 5th across Europe will be the deadline for the summer transfer window. So rumors are going to continue to swirl. Signings will be made very soon, and we'll break them down all for you here on the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Coming up after the break, I'm going to give you my top 5 best and worst kits for the next soccer season. Don't go anywhere.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. We've just wrapped up our discussion on the latest transfer rumors in the transfer market, and now I'm going to give you my rankings for kits for the 2020-2021 season. Now, we're going to start with the top 5 worst kits, and there are a lot of bad kits coming up this year, but I'm going to give you the top 5 worst, the ones to avoid and the ones to cringe at when you see them on television. Now, number 5, this might be surprising, but I'm going to go with Liverpool's home kit as the 5th worst kit of the 2021 season. Now, Liverpool's kit, it's not terrible. It's a part of their new deal with Nike, and the red color is nice, and it would have been good if Liverpool went for a more plain look in their jersey, because there's no shame in going plain. It's no shame in just using your club color, club primary color, and using that with the sponsor. But the problem with this jersey is the green. The green neck, the green sleeves, it's just not the club. Liverpool is not green. If Elves played a football team, this would be the jersey that they would field. This is not a good jersey for Liverpool, because Liverpool wear red and they use white, maybe black and yellow if they need to use some secondary colors. They do not use green. I don't want to see a team play like it's Christmas every day. I don't want to see Christmas in March or Christmas in September. This jersey is not good because of the green. That's the problem, and that's why Liverpool's home kit is one to avoid. Number 4 worst kit of the next season is Inter Milan's home kit. Now, I have to admit, before this year, I've never seen a Milan kit that I didn't like. I've never seen an Inter kit that I didn't like, or that was objectively unappealing. But this is the first, and there's always a first for everything. And the problem with this is that Inter are going away from its roots. Inter are not a zigzag. If you haven't seen this jersey, it's not the traditional vertical stripes of Inter of blue and black. It is the same colors, but it's zigzags across the jersey. Vertical zigzags. And it makes for a very ugly look and very disorienting look for a team like Inter. And Inter, they really blew it with this kit. They've always known how to make a beautiful kit. This one has been an epic failure, and it's a shame to see Inter make a kit like this. The zigzags are not to be met on a football jersey, never mind for a historic club like Inter. It's meant to evoke the Il Biscone, the snake, which is the animal mascot of the city of Milan, but it doesn't work for a football jersey. Sorry, Inter. Try again. Next is number 3, the number 3 worst kit of the season. And this is pretty ironic, and this is pretty special that this is the number 3rd worst jersey, because it's Chelsea's home kit. If you've seen Chelsea's home kit, which has already been put into action at the end of this season, ever since the restart, Chelsea has been using their new home kit. The problem with this kit is the sponsor. The days of Yokohama tires are over. The days of 3 are here. Chelsea's new sponsor is literally the number 3. And if you don't know what they are, it's a company in the UK called 3UK. Don't know if that changes your opinion about it. It doesn't with mine. The number 3 on any jersey, other than a player's number, is not meant to be there. And Chelsea's sponsor is impossible to overlook in this situation. It's the worst sponsor I've ever seen for a Premier League squad ever. And the number 3 is going to be pivotal, because Chelsea are going to lose 3 goals a game, 3 games a week, and 3 fans a day with that jersey. It's very ugly. The sponsor is too much to overlook, and it's going to make for a very bad season for Chelsea in that kit, because the shade of blue is not that bad. It's a nice shade of blue, and the black neck and the black sleeves, that's a nice touch. But if the sponsor was Yokohama Tires or Samsung, this would be one of their best jerseys, but it's not, because the sponsor is so ugly on this jersey. That's Chelsea's home kit. Number 2 worst home kit of the 2021 season has got to be Manchester City's home kit. And if you watch the Champions League on Friday night against Real Madrid, you saw this kit in action, and it is not easy to look at. This kit looks like the puzzle that you were too lazy to finish for all those years when you were a child. Manchester City's home kit is supposed to emulate and inspire the mosaics of Manchester's northern quarter. And I've never been to Manchester. I've never seen their mosaics. And I guess you could see what they were trying to do, and that you can respect what they were trying to do, paying homage to the city. But it failed. It just failed. The color is not bad, but the texture and the design of the mosaics makes it look like an ocean of some sort. And it just falls short in so many ways, because Manchester City have really set the bar high for kits over the last few years. Manchester City know how to make a great kit. Last year's was great. The year before was great. Year before was great. This year is the worst Manchester City kit of the decade. They've really fallen short of the high bar that they set themselves. The mosaics of the northern quarter look like the ocean. It's very disorienting, and it's not Manchester City. It's not who they are, and it will be for the next season, which is a shame because it's a very bad kit. And now, the worst kit of the 2021 season, and this was not even close. When I saw this kit, I knew right away this would be the ugliest kit of the season. It is undoubtedly Arsenal's away kit. If you haven't seen this, it's worth a Google search, or you watch an Arsenal game when they put this in action, because this jersey literally looks like if a Real Madrid player had a bear fight. It's white with red marks that really look like blood, to be honest. It just looks like somebody got brutally beat up by some sort of vicious animal. It's a very disorienting jersey, and I keep using the word disorienting, but this one is the king of disorientation. It is the worst kit that I've seen this year. It's one of the worst kits that I've ever seen for a top club like Arsenal. And honestly, anybody could have made this. Adidas made this kit, but it could have been made by a second grader with some pens and red crayons. It is a bold choice. I don't know who signed the contract of approval for this jersey to be mass-produced and sent out and to be viewed by millions of people. But this jersey is an epic failure. It is the worst jersey of the season. No question about it. Now, that's it for the negativity and the pessimism. I'm going to tell you about the top 5 best kits of next season. We're going to start with number 5. The number 5 best kit is Dortmund's home kit. Dortmund have one of the best color schemes in football with their traditional black and yellow. It's one of the best looks in world football. They never stay away from it, and they always use it in a different style, whether it's stripes or using cool styles with the black on the shoulders or all yellow or black shorts. They always know how to make their jersey look good. And this year they really did it very well because their home kit, it's bold. This year it's black and yellow again, but with a twist. It's a lightning bolt, electric buzz type of style where it looks like there are a bunch of lightning bolts on the jersey, and it's like an electric type of feel on the jersey. And it's worth a Google search because it's unlike any jersey that you've ever seen, so it's hard to describe on a podcast without showing you. But it is a brilliant kit. It's not for everybody, but it is for me. It's a bold interpretation. It's a bold twist to a classic jersey, but I am here for it, and it is a great jersey. The uniqueness and creativity of the design, it's amazing. Now, the sponsor is new this year. The sponsor is a company called 1&1, which taints the jersey a little bit, but the sponsor is not enough to make me think that this is not one of the top jerseys in the world right now. So that's worth a purchase if you're a Dortmund fan for certain. It is not a jersey that you see every day, and it is very bold and it is great. Number 4 best kit of the 2021 season is the away kit for Liverpool. I bashed their home kit because of the green, but this away kit, like Dortmund's home kit, is very bold in how it's been approached. It's all turquoise. It has a black neck and sleeves, and the sponsors are all written in black, but the jersey is all turquoise, and it's not just a clear hue of turquoise, it's a texture. It's ocean-like. It's not like Manchester City's ocean because it doesn't look like mosaics. It looks like waves, and it's a very unique texture to it and style. It's a different ocean and wave feel that Manchester City had, and it's better. It's an experiment for sure. It's bold from Liverpool, but it's different and it's beautiful. It's a great away kit. It's a fantastic kit, and you should definitely look into it. Number 3 best kit of the next season is Barcelona. Their home kit for next season is absolutely beautiful. Now, Barcelona have had a very bad season, and you knew that they were going to have a bad season the moment that you looked at their checkerboard jersey for last season. Now, this is probably the most controversial jersey that Barcelona have ever made, being last year's, when they took inspiration from Croatia's checkerboard jersey and took it and made it their jersey for the 2020 season. Now, personally, I thought Barcelona's kit last year wasn't that bad. I thought it was a great color scheme. I thought the blocks were different. It would be a nice change of pace for a club like Barcelona, who always make vertical stripes in their kit. But it did grow old very quickly, and this kit is just perfect. It's what Barcelona needed to get back to their tradition, to get back to their roots. Because what makes this jersey special is mostly because it pays tribute to the 2011 season when Barcelona won the treble for the first time, well, the second time, I should say, with Pep Guardiola, when Messi went on a tear and scored all those goals in La Liga and in the Champions League. It is one of the best kits in Barcelona's history in 2011, and this kit pays homage to that and is inspired by that. It's the back to the vertical stripes with the color scheme of the maroon and the navy, and also the yellow pinstripes are a nice touch, and the yellow neck is back like in 2011. This is a great kit. It is one of the best kits Barcelona have made in the past decade, and if you're a Barcelona fan, this is a must-buy. This is one of the best jerseys that we have seen in years for the Catalans, and it is just beautiful. It's amazing, and it's much better than the jersey that they had last year. Going on to number 2, the second best kit of the 2021 season. We're sticking in Catalonia. It's going to be the away kit for Barcelona, is what I'm going to choose. The away kit for Barcelona is beautiful. Barcelona pretty much nail their away kits every year. They always know how to make a good away kit. But this one is the king of the crop. It is the best away kit that Barca have made all decade long. It's all black. Black is never a bad option. It's always a great option for an away kit to use the color black, because it really could be used for any club. It could complement any club's crest. And the best away kits that I've ever seen are usually black. I remember Real Madrid had a really sick black away jersey in 2015, and it was pretty sick. And Barcelona have done that this year. It's all black with the shade of gold. So the gold neck, the gold sponsor, the gold jersey numbers, that is a sick, sick jersey. The blend of black and gold in this kit is absolutely sublime. It's gorgeous. Not to mention black and gold are my high school colors. The Vikings, which are black and gold, so it's a little more special to me personally. But that my bias is not rooted in that it's my high school mascot. It's rooted in the fact that black and gold just go so well together, and this kit is just beautiful. It is the perfect jersey, and if you're a Barcelona fan, I highly recommend this one to you. And now, I'm going to tell you the number 1 kit for the 2021 season. And this is going to be very surprising. It's very outside the box. And it might not be the number 1 jersey for everybody out there. But I'm going to pick the home kit for AC Milan. AC Milan's home kit is my favorite kit of next season. And AC Milan, what I love about this, I love the thick vertical stripes that they go with, because last year they were much thinner. It was like Barcelona's kit from 2 years ago. The stripes were very thin. And the texture of the stripes is unlike anything that Milan have done before. The texture and the subtle graphic print is inspired by Milan's beautiful architecture and paying homage to one of the oldest malls in Milan and in Italy. And that texture within the thick vertical stripes of the red and black are just perfect for Milan. This is the best Milan kit I've ever seen, and it is well worth the purchase for any football fan, never mind a Milan fan. I'm not even a Milan fan, but I think I'm going to buy this jersey because it is just amazing. It's gorgeous. And not to mention, Milan also have a great color scheme, the traditional black and red. It's a very traditional look for Milan. They always stick with it, but they always go with something different. But they've gone with 3 wide vertical stripes as opposed to the very thin ones from last year. And the texture just takes this one to a whole new level. And I love it. I love it so much. I love what Milan have done with this jersey. So to recap, my top 5 best kits of the season are Dortmund's home kit, Liverpool's away, Barcelona's home and away, and AC Milan's home kit. Those are my favorite kits, and those are the ones that you should highly consider purchasing if you're a football fan looking to expand your collection of jerseys. With that, that is the last of the top 5 segment, and that is all I have for you on this show today. And it's been a very fun show. A lot has been going on in world football right now, and I can't wait to be back with you next week when the Champions League quarterfinals begin, and we get to break down those matchups as well and see what else has developed in the transfer market. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast today, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Before you go, I'd like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review on whatever platform you're listening to. That really helps us and our show. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night. I'll talk to you again soon.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.